So I'm John Sawyer. I'm the Vice President of ARC Surveying and Mapping. ARC Surveying and Mapping was formed in 1986 after 20 years of working in the field. I decided I wanted to go into business for myself. And I had 3 sons that grew up with me in the business. They're pretty much operating the business themselves now, and I'm doing the marketing and some consulting. I'm very interested in dredging. As you know, we're at the Dredging Conference here in Norfolk. And the thing that I have to offer the dredging community, in addition to my surveying services, is our new venture into geophysical surveying. And with geophysical surveying, we can describe the entire subsurface to the dredging community in a 4-dimensional model. So instead of dredging blindly, where they only had a few borings, now they can look at the subsurface as easily as they can look above ground. A resistivity survey is actually similar to a CAT scan. You know, as we're pulling this cable across, like you're laying in the machine getting your CAT scan, we're pulling a cable along the bottom and we're recording everything that's on that bottom. The partnership came together as I was at a dredging conference years ago. Peter was doing a presentation on a different technology, on Rio cable on navigable depths. And I was interested in his presentation. I met with him later and we started talking about my background in dredging and my surveying experience and his ability to provide geophysical surveys. And we thought, boy, if we could combine those 2 services and present this to engineers, dredging people, and those kind of people involved in dredging projects, that we would really have something that would be a benefit to the dredging community. So we tested the system on a couple of projects, one at Port Canaveral and another in the Intercoastal Waterway at Rockledge, Florida. We had the results of that survey tested with conventional methods. Everything worked out perfect. The people that we were doing the tests for loved it, and business is booming. Aquaries is an electrical resistivity system that acquires sub-bottom data. We pull a 200-foot long cable behind our survey vessel, and the system injects an electrical charge into the subsurface, and it records the resistance of different material types in ohm values. So a soft sediment, for example, would have an ohm reading of 2 or 3, and clay or rock or firmer materials would have a ohm value resistance, a red value maybe of 10. So we're able to describe the whole subsurface of structures, any change in the bottom. ARC Surveying and Mapping is a technology-oriented company, and we're heavily invested in technology. And one of the things that we've done with all the technology that we purchased is we've always tested it very thoroughly before we bought it, because we're responsible for a lot of the information that's developed for these dredging contracts. And so when we first got the system, we took it to a project in the Intercoastal Waterway in Melbourne, around the Melbourne area in Florida, Rockledge, Florida. And we did a survey that the goal of the survey was to isolate contaminated muck in the Intercoastal Waterway. The contaminated muck in the Intercoastal Waterway is causing large fish kills, algae blooms, and at the time that we did the survey, it was thought that the entire width of the canal was contaminated with muck from previous studies. So we went in there with our system and did a survey, and we found that only 1/3 of the canal had contaminated muck in it. You're talking millions and millions of dollars in savings to people that are going to use this data, because now, having isolated the muck in the canal, we can go in there and surgically dredge it. It can be dredged without dredging templates. Not only that, so it cuts down on dredging costs, and not only that, these disposal areas that we're treating all these contaminated sediments in, they're limited to capacity. So having surgically dredged the contaminated muck from the canal, we're not wasting any of the disposal area capacity. It's a huge, this is going to revolutionize the way that people do these sediment remediation surveys. Anybody that has anything to do with dredging, engineers, developers, dredging contractors, they'll all benefit from this. The cost of dredging, as everybody knows, is growing every day. So anything that we can do to minimize the amount of dredging that we have to do and the amount of material that we have to rehandle and clean in these disposal areas is big savings. You know, our business model was to stay ahead of competition by providing our clients with the best in technology. And we don't have any competition in this market, in this resistivity market, because the systems that I've tested in the past never worked. So we just dropped it and didn't take it any further. We knew that resistivity was a good way to look at the subsurface, but the data that we were getting from the systems that were out there previously wasn't working. And so I kind of gave up on it until I ran into Peter, and we thought, well, you know, he's bragging about his system, and we thought, well, let's give it a whirl and see what it does. And it unexpectedly turned out to be something really good.